AM, FM, TV, and .com, WLAF. It's 10:45, and Jim Freeman is live for something special for us.
Derek, thank you. This is WLAF. A lot of the fellas here in the country club today. Dennis Powers is leading the charge here. We have a special presentation, and Dennis, let's have some fun today with Bobbie Heatherly, our honoree today.
Thank you, Jim. Honored to get to be here today and to get to honor Bobbie. We were going to do this back in May and had a few problems with it back when we had the Bobbie Heatherly Golf Classic, but glad to get to do here today, even though we're a little bit late. And we appreciate everything that Bobbie's done, and just really, really proud of him and all the years he's put in serving our community and working in basketball, working in golf. And Bobbie has a unique, I guess, quality that many people don't have. And I know people that are farmers or people that are working out on the by themselves know this quality, but Bobbie, he's one of the type of person that worked as hard when nobody's watching as he did when somebody was there. I mean, he was always out working on the golf course and working on everything, and it didn't matter. A lot of people won't do that. A lot of people won't. I'm kind of bad not to do that too, but you kind of work a little bit harder when people are around. But Bobbie worked the same either way. I mean, he just has that quality of doing what's right and doing whether anybody knows about it or not. And that just always amazed me that I look out there and see him and nobody's around there, and he's really working hard and trying to make the golf course the best place it can be, and he always did that. So we're honored to get to have him here today, and we've going to kind of go around the room and see if anybody wants to say a little something about him. We'd be glad to have you do that. I've got a few comments. I remember a few I can share on the air, and a few that I'll probably tell you after we go off. But one thing I remember, Bobbie was always, very complimentary. Anytime you walked in there, he always had something good to say to you. Most of the time. But Bobbie, when Bobbie was up there, he always wanted, if you had an idea about the golf course, he always wanted to hear it, and always wanted your suggestion on how to improve the golf course. Because I remember telling him one time, Bobbie, out on number 5, there's the long knockers out there just hitting it down there real far, hitting it over there to the right in the rough, and then they're hitting a short or mid-iron into the green. I said, why don't we just put a pond down there kind of at the bottom, and that way it'll kind of penalize them for knocking it over there in the rough and trying to take a shortcut. And he said, Powers, you run your little insurance office, and I'll run the golf course up there. That was his favorite saying. I've heard it a lot, believe me.
I had a lot of good members.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
They like to help.
They like to help you, like to make suggestions. So, Bobbie, would you like to say anything before we go around the room?
Well, I just wanted to thank the people at the Follett Country Club because they were very, very nice to me and my family. We spent a lot of time at the golf course. I was fortunate to spend a lot of time at the golf course with my family, but worked a lot of hours. You had to work a lot of hours in the summertime because my membership thought they both play golf till dark, and they did. And so we had to stay there till they closed. But the people at the Follett Country Club was very nice to me, and the most memorable thing about the country club was my kids. Had a great bunch of kids, great bunch of golfers, and a lot of them went on to play a whole lot of golf in college and state champions. Had one qualify for the U.S. Open. Mm-hmm. Not bad for a little 9-hole golf course at the Follett Country Club, and we really enjoyed it. Had a great membership. 2 things you got to have a good club. Got to have a good ladies organization that the men gets mad at because they play golf out there
on Tuesday
and get in the way. So we just had to take the men off and let the ladies play, and they didn't like that. So, but I had a good ladies program and a great junior golf program at and see the boys come back now like Joy and Robbie and just hundreds of kids still come in and see me and call me. That's big. and thank you. And them 40 years old, 50 years old, and bring their kids or grandkids by. Want you to teach them golf. It's a great game. It was a great experience between golf and basketball. I had a wonderful life and really, really enjoyed. Had a great job, great membership. I wish it was like that now, but I was very fortunate that at Ernie and Jack and them come along about the time I went to the country club, and golf just boom, 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 and we end up having a great club and a big membership. Yep. At one time, if you wanted to play golf at the Follett Country Club and get a membership, you had to wait a while.
Yeah, you cut it off.
Well, you couldn't get in. We had a limit on 200 families. Right. That's a lot of people for a 9-hole golf course. And these times back then, you just couldn't get people on, so they didn't get to play. Right. Sometimes they had to wait a year or two to get a membership, and that was good. But like I said, our members really play golf, so we had to keep it for the members. But my kids was the most rewarding part of my job, was them growing up and being golfers and teaching them to play golf and getting them out there on the golf course and yelling at them when we had lessons. Because I was always worried about.
You yelled at me before.
I always worried about somebody getting hit with a golf ball or a golf club.
Yeah.
I tell one of my old buddy Todd Bergen, Todd wasn't a very smart boy.
No.
He probably was the smartest kid I ever had. And we getting ready to go play after the end of the golf lessons. We've got up there and we just really drill about. You stay behind people, don't get up beside of them. These golfers, they can hit it sideways. If I see you out in front of somebody, you're going to the clubhouse, because I don't have time to take you to the hospital.
Right.
Well, Todd takes his group down on number 6. He's the leader of the group, and don't get teed off. Don't play one hole, one shot. Todd gets hit right under the eye with a golf ball.
Yeah.
A quarter of an inch either way, he loses his eye.
Yeah.
I mean, I was scared to death, and all I was wanting to do is get him to the hospital, but he did. He got hit on the first shot by somebody standing. He was standing to the side of him, hit it off the end of the club, and hit him right under the eye.
Wow.
But
yeah, my brother-in-law got hit under the eye too.
Yeah, we have, and we've got a few people hit. We got, who was it, Bill? Oh, he hit Cox down on number 3, wasn't it? Yeah, hit him right in the back, and Cox just went to his knees, buddy. And what can you say? Grown man should be turned around watching him hit, but he did. He hit him right in the square in the back with a golf ball. So you can get hurt playing golf, but it's a great game. But I enjoyed ever how many years I stayed. I went back twice, so I didn't figure them in, but somewhere around 25 or 30.
We figured up 36 total. So
it's something right like that. But like I said, I had to go back twice. But golf is in a different market than what it was when I was there. Golf was in Campbell County about the only thing you could play. We didn't compete with the lake in the mountains, and we do now. And so Josh has got a lot tougher job than I did.
Yeah.
We had people we couldn't let play or couldn't get them on the golf course, but he'll work at it hard and keep his membership up, and that's great. But to have a full membership and people get upset with you because they can't get in the club, that's one way a pretty good feeling, and the other way you really feel bad about it. But we try to let all of them play that we could possibly let play, because they're going to be members of people come and go playing golf. But it was a great experience. I loved it. I appreciate my family sticking by me, staying there, and along come basketball, and I spent 25 years on the floor working basketball in the winter,
Wow.
in the wintertime. And just one little story on basketball. It's a hard thing to do to call your wife at 1 o'clock in the morning, tell her you won't be home, you're in the hospital, and you got hit by a cheerleader.
I don't believe I'd have told her that.
Had to tell the truth. Hey, she didn't believe it. She didn't believe it, but fortunately I had some backup there. I had the doctor, and I finally put him on the phone, and because he said I was at Western Kentucky, and this is the truth. They was playing Middle Tennessee, and there was about 2 or 3 minutes left in the ball game. I had a timeout. So I was walking across the center of the floor to give my timeout. 2 or 3 hours later, in the hospital, I woke up. A boy cheerleader from Middle Tennessee come turning backward flips off the baseline and hit me right there with the heel of his shoe, just like a bullet.
Wow.
I didn't see him coming. I don't know when he hit me. I don't know when I hit the floor. I just know when that doctor, I finally looked up, and that doctor said, "Son, you've been out for a long time."
Wow.
So you can get hurt, then have to call your wife and tell her you won't be home because you're in the hospital and you got hit by a cheerleader.
I hope they got a technical foul on
Hey,
that too.
what I really felt bad was my dear friend finished a tough basketball game for 2 minutes by himself.
Oh, wow.
That is tough. Then the tough part for me, I was coming home, and I had an eye you wouldn't believe. And it's hard to explain that when people say, "What happened? What happened?" "Well, I got hit by a cheerleader." Well, I was getting ready to go work the state tournament in Nashville in 4 days. And they said, "Are you going to go? Are you going to go? Are you going to?" Well, I hate to go home and not work the state tournament. So after 4 days, it didn't look all that bad, but I still had a big shiner all the way down my jaw. I said, I'm going to work the state tournament. But I bet I answered 1,000 times what happened. I wanted to lie about it, but that was I wouldn't do nothing like
You'd
that.
have said at the golf course, everybody would have said Janice.
And I said, yeah, your wife really hit you. But I got hit by a cheerleader. So in basketball games, strange things can happen. But I enjoyed golf, and I enjoyed putting that whistle on and throwing that ball up and going. And it was very, very good to me. I can tell the story about how it ended, and I'll hush. I'd worked so hard through high school. Well, through high school, it was good to me. Worked into small college and worked up to where I was working Division I college. Working so hard for one thing. I wanted to be in the Southeastern Conference. I wanted to I worked every night with the intentions of getting better. If I couldn't get better, I wouldn't be there. That's what I've always told myself. When I didn't want to improve my game on the floor, I'd quit. Well, I got my nerve built up. I was ready to go in the Southeastern Conference. I got me an application, getting ready to send it in. My phone rang. John Guthrie. Say, "Bobbie, this is Mr. Guthrie of the Southeastern Conference. We would like to invite you to come to our conference." Well, I said, "I have my application." I was getting ready to send it in. He says, "I don't think you need an application if you want to come in. The Southeastern Conference, you worked with a Southeastern Conference official, they had to send in a report. If you had somebody you thought could work in the Southeastern Conference, they had to turn it in, and they gave it to Mr. Guthrie. He said, your name has been turned in 12 times. He says, I think you can come in our conference if you like to play. And he says, we got camp coming up, and we'd like you to come to camp. I always went to camp somewhere in the summertime. But he says, this is in August. He says, he's in Indiana, and he says, but this year they moved it from 1 week to 2 weeks. I said, I like to fell out of my chair. I said, Mr. Guthrie, that's really tough for me. You know what I do for a living, and I run the Follett Country Club, and in August is a tough time of the year for me because I take care of our greens, and I have nobody that I'd leave my greens with except Mike Rogers, and he's an insurance man. He can't get off from work. No, that's not true. But I said, I want to come in more than anything, but my job might interfere with me a little bit, and I don't know where I can really do it or not. Boy, he says, I hate for you not to come in, and we'd like to have you, but I understand where you're at and what you do for a living and your dedication to your job. And you'd say, well, let me think about it a little bit. You think he'd, he'll give me 3 or 4 days or a week to talk to everybody and think about it. He says, you think about it, in 2 hours you call me back. Oh. Let me know. Let me know. Well, I was sitting at my desk at the country club. I hung up that phone. You talk about a man that didn't know what to say or what to do or panicking, but you got 2 hours to make your mind up before you're going to go in the Southeastern Conference or not. So, you all knew what the Follett Country Club meant to me, and I just would not leave my greens unprotected or for 2 weeks in August weather. Would you, Josh?
Can't do it.
Wouldn't do it.
Can't do it.
So I sat there and talked about it to myself, prayed a little about it, probably cried a little bit because I knew I couldn't go. I couldn't go. So I called Mr. Guthrie back and explained the situation and thanked him for the opportunity to go in the conference. That was my number one goal in basketball, was to make the Southeastern Conference. I thanked him and hung up and sat there. Then I really cried, because that's not all the decisions I have to make, because I made myself a promise. This is a decision nobody can make for you. You got to make your decision now. What are you going to do forward? Since that conversation with Mr. Guthrie and my decision, I called my best friend. Didn't tell my family, didn't tell anybody, because it was going to be tough enough the way it was. And I done decided what I was going to do. I was going to get out of basketball. From that day, saying no in the Southeastern Conference, I've never been on the floor and worked another basketball game. Gave up my supervisor's job in high school. So, like I said, after that day and after that game, I've never been back on the floor, and I never worked another basketball game, because I'd always felt like I didn't have anything to work for, because unless I changed jobs or done something else, that was as far as I could go. So I decided I was going to quit where I was at, quit on top, and not put myself in a bad situation going back on the floor. So now I got a real tough job. I got to call Mr. Fielding my very best friend. If you don't know Albert Fielding, you don't know what I'm talking about. He helped me in basketball, got me where I was at through high school, through college, then gave me when I quit working on the floor in high school, he gave me a supervisor's job in the association. So I had a supervisor's job, and he was going to quit pretty soon, and I'd been supervisor of the association. And I explained the situation to him and my situation at work, and I did, and I told him, I said, I've talked to Mr. Guthrie, and I've called Mr. Guthrie back and turned it down. And I said, under the situation where I can't go out there every night and feel like I have something to work for and get better, I think I'm going to quit.
Wow.
I'm going to quit my supervisor's job and turn in my college schedule. And I appreciate all you've ever done for me, and we'll still be the best friends. And he always called me son. He said, son, I'm sure you have made the right decision, and I'll be behind you 100% anything you want to do. And from that day to this day, I've never been back on the floor or supervised a basketball game, and it tore me apart at first, but right now I have no regrets on the way I handled it or the way I did it. Thank you.
Wow. I didn't know that story. I didn't know you'd had that offer. As you can see, Bobbie, there was no 30-second clock back when Bobbie was playing basketball. But we really appreciate that. It shows the dedication that he had to the country club, and I never knew that. I never knew he gave that up. I think we could have gave him 2 weeks off, though. But
well, I couldn't take 2 weeks off. Like I said,
we could have got Mike Rogers to take care of the green.
I had to get Mike to get
Pull
Ben to give him 2 weeks off.
I think they could have worked that
And
out.
Joe, we didn't want no 30-second clock. We wanted to hold it. We wanted to hold it.
That's right.
Bob shot more than anybody.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people probably have the same story that I do, but Bobbie Heatherly taught me how to play golf. I had never played before in my life. I grew up playing basketball and baseball and football is all we had around here. But when I was a sophomore in high school, I picked up a golf club and went out. We had a 5-iron and 3 golf balls. Me and Roger Carmody went out in the field and hit them, and I kind of got hooked at that point and didn't really know how to play or the rules of the game or anything. But went to Bobbie and he worked with me. It was back when they had. Well, I had to quit the other games. I wanted to play basketball, but Lynn Pierce ended my career with some injuries that he inflicted on me, so I gave up some of the other sports to play golf. But I remember going out on number 1, and it was actually the ladies' tee for number 1. But Bobbie take me down there and hit bucket after bucket. He'd make me go get the balls, but we'd hit bucket after bucket of balls down there in the flat. And he helped me with my golf swing. He's the only golf coach I ever had, and he helped me. And that was my sophomore year, and I made the team my junior year, and I got to be captain of it my senior year. But he just dedicated his time. He never charged me a penny, of course, and just helped me with my golf and to learn how to play golf, learn the rules of it, learn what to do, what not to do. From that time on, I mean, he's been a friend to me because he just really dedicated and did that to so many different people, not just me. But I know that he helped a lot of people like that, and I'll never forget it as long as we live. And I really appreciate it. And
just one thing about the kids that played for me, I was their teacher. They didn't play for me; they played for the school. But it was unbelievable back then in the prime of some of the high school teams we had. Probably the best high school team we had competitive-wise was one Robbie's on, Joey was on, and Lobertini, and who else? Reed.
Yeah.
And back then, if you couldn't shoot 71 or 72, you didn't have a chance to make the golf team. Mm-hmm. Now, they shoot in the 90s, 80s, and that's because the change of time a little bit, and the kids don't have the exposure they used to have. But that was a great golf. That's probably the best golf team we had. But in that stretch of time there, it was amazing, those kids, what they could shoot and how they could play. I mean, they go out there and shoot. One of them would be under par, and then they'd be 70s, 71s, and 72s,
Wow.
73s in every match. And they had to play hard because Mr. Lobertini stayed after him. No, Mr. Lobertini.
Mr. Agee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But Leland really enjoyed going and watching them play. And just why I'm speaking it, my dear friend Joe, and the five that we played basketball, Carl,
I remember, yeah.
Nub, Clell, and
Norman.
You mentioned
Nub and Clell and Carl, and me and you. That was one of the greatest thrills of my life, getting to play with that group and our coach, Ron.
Yeah.
But the thing about that group, when we went out on the floor, the other team probably laughed at us. We had a pretty good basketball team. The tallest man on the team was 6'1".
Wow.
6'1". We played Clinton 5 times. They were 6'10", 6'6", 6'6", 6'4", 6'4". They won one game.
Wow.
They won one game. They beat us 22-21 or something like that. Because it's hard to score without the ball. But hey, and we beat a lot of people that we shouldn't. Chattanooga City come up here ranked number 2 in the state. They go back home a loser. And it was just because the people that we played with, and we played together since we was in the 7th grade. We could tell if somebody was going to breathe. But we played together just so hard for each other. And but then it come down to the greatest night in our basketball career. The night we beat South at Stokely Center, and them the number 1 team in the state,
Wow.
and ranked number 5 in the country. And we sent them home.
Wow.
But that was the greatest thrill we've ever had, and Joe was such a part of that. And Joe's the only guy I've ever seen could shoot a 20-footer, missed a bucket completely, catch the ball under the bucket and score. I've seen him do it more than once. Shoot it, miss the bucket completely.
Isn't that illegal?
It's a pass. He missed the whole bucket and catch it and put it and shoot. Nobody never touched it. But Joe, that's following your shot, isn't it?
I think that's
That's
walking
following your
now.
shot.
But then we had one play that Bobbie would put in here. We go down the court and Bobbie say, "Me and you, Joe," but me never did get the ball. I don't know what that play was.
One of the reasons I would have got took out of a basketball game is not throwing it to Carl or Joe. We tried to get it to Carl because Carl was a heck of a scorer, and he could play. But you can see our team was on something besides height and scoring. We played team defense, and unbelievable how we played teams, and all night long they thought we was playing a zone. We never played a zone and never heard of a zone in practice.
Right.
We'd play a man-to-man defense, but we'd help each other. It was unbelievable. Most of the time they felt like they had 2 people guarding them. But we had a team that we played together, and we had a great coach. And besides golf, my basketball and the team I played with meant a whole lot to me.
Not bad.
They were a good bunch of boys. I'm finished.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, why don't we go around the room a little bit and let everybody, if they want to make a comment or talk a little bit about.
But Joe will lie. You got to
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, we can't. First liar don't have a chance.
Well, I'll tell you one about Mike.
Okay.
Coach, Mike was on the team, and Mike would make me so damn mad in practice. And it was all planned.
Are we on delay?
It was all planned. He would hold me, he would smack me, and Coach Murray was officiating. So Coach Murray wouldn't blow the whistle because he was trying to see how mad he could make me get. to where it helped me during the ball game. And I looked at him. He just looked the other way, and he told me later. He says, "Mike's number one goal was to see how mad he can make you in practice." Now that's awful, and
I did.
that is awful. And you wouldn't think your friend would do that.
It must have worked too.
But no, Mike could play.
Yeah, I know.
He played a whole lot. But
I played with it.
but the team we had and the goals that we achieved that we wasn't good enough to achieve
Right.
was great.
Yeah.
But we had a magical year, and we
I remember
we enjoyed
watching you, from the
But
stand.
I think
Yeah.
I think the people of the Follett, when we beat South over there, they like to kill us before we get off the floor and get to the dressing room. It was a great experience. It was a thrill.
Yeah.
Because if you've never been on the floor with Jay Cole, he beat anything you've ever seen in your life shooting a basketball.
Automatic.
25, 30 feet. Wasn't nothing. When he come across the center line, you better be guarding him. He's
And
going
no
to shoot.
three-pointers back
No
then.
three-pointers.
No.
And they had a great team. They had,
Yeah. They didn't have the ball. He couldn't shoot it.
but we'd go a whole quarter and they'd never touch it.
Wow.
And
I remember guarding Ronnie Arnold, the pastor out there,
Yeah.
and I would guard him when we were playing in the church league. And he'd take about 2 steps across the half line and just knock the bottom out of it. And I said, well, he can't continue doing that.
he could play.
Well, he did it forever, and then I'd go out there and try to guard him, and he'd drive around me and shoot about a 15-footer.
But just a last comment. Without my family, which I love dearly, my wife, Allison and Robbie,
Mhm.
they mean more to me than anything in the world.
I'm sure. And all the hours that you had to work. I remember you being up there at daylight, and you're still there at dark, and I don't know how you did
Well,
it.
if I was going to work that many hours, it's lucky that I worked at the country club, because in the summertime, they spent it at their hours at the country club, at the swimming pool, and working and playing golf, and
Right.
and I don't guess Robbie ever forgot what I told him. I said, Robbie, you're my son, and you have to be beyond the way you act to everybody else, because it's unfortunate that you are my son. And they would have a comment if you did something or broke the rules, or
Right.
and I'm sure Robbie done things that his mommy wouldn't be proud of sometime playing golf.
I bet you also told me you beat the crap out of him if he didn't do it.
Can we move on to the next person?
Okay, yeah, and we're going to go to Robbie right now.
Well, I don't really know what kind of comments that you can add, except for my dad's not talked that much in 12 years, all told. But I think today means a lot to him, seeing all you gentlemen that have came by, because he's touched us all. I mean, I didn't have anybody that I talked to say they couldn't be here. No matter what it was that they had to take care of today, they were able to be here. But, as Dad talked, and I think about being raised at the country club, I think of all the people that made me who I am. And I've talked about this a lot to a lot of different people. Of course, my father being the most influential, and of course that all comes with work ethic, and no matter what I do the rest of my life, work ethic wise, I can never live up to that. But I do aspire to that, and modeling that, I couldn't have asked for a better role model in how you work and how you appreciate your job and the sacrifices that you make for your job. And, whatever the proclamation says today, it should say about Mr. Heatherly's work ethic. But Dad, me being up there with him, seeing that, but also the life lessons I learned about all the gentlemen that I crossed paths with up there. And I think we'd be remiss today without mentioning Mr. Bailiff, who was Dad's great friend, and as it worked out, his partner. I don't know how he got in the pecking order to be my dad's partner, but I'm going to tell a quick story about Mr. Bailiff, and I'm going to go on because this is really way too emotional for me, because I look around the room and everybody in the room has meant something to me. But it's a quick story about Ed. I was so young that my legs wouldn't hit the floor in the golf cart. But Ed had a new yellow and white Rolls-Royce golf cart. And Dad would not ride in the golf cart. He would sometimes put his clubs on the golf cart. I don't know if it was solitude or he just didn't want to put up with everybody's foolishness. But he would not be in the golf cart. So Ed would let me ride in the golf cart with him. I was not allowed to touch anything. I was not allowed to talk. And I was not allowed to get out of my seat. Those were the rules my dad gave me if I wanted to go watch him play golf. And that was the highlight of my day. You'd wait all day long for everybody to get there and tee off at 5 o'clock. Well, Ed had his big cigar, looking for a golf ball in the rough on number 6. Dad was in the fairway, and I was there with Ed. Well, Ed found his ball much further up than what he thought. I don't have no idea how it got there. I will not, don't know. But he said, Robbie, bring the cart on up. Bring the cart on up. And he had his cigar in the wings of the Rolls-Royce front piece of the golf cart. I always remember him taking the cigar off and sit it there. Robbie, come on. Well, I did that, and the golf cart was in reverse. So I backed Ed's new golf cart into a tree. And I could see my dad's head expand by about 3 times. And he came marching over to where I was to save me, to make sure the golf cart was taken care of. And he grabbed me, set me in the seat, and Ed was saying, Bobbie, that was my fault. Don't worry. He said, this is not your problem, Ed. So I learned my lesson about following rules with you all, getting to watch your all's golf match. But it was an honor, again, a gentleman like Ed Bailiff, to spend my time sitting there in a golf cart. You learn a lot of lessons on how to treat people, yes, sir, no, sir. And again, Lafayette Country Club served our family well, and I couldn't have asked for a better situation to be raised up in. Thank you, Dad.
Bobbie, I've got a lot to tell on you, buddy, but I'm going to be short and sweet. But Bobbie and I go back a long way. I could write books. He's closest to brother to me.
That's all right, Joe. I got something to bring a smile to his face. I don't know if I can do it and hold this at the same time, but say that's the goal back there.
Hold me, but first of all, I want you to tell them.
I'm not, nor. What? Go ahead. I'm all ears.
You want me to always work a basketball game for you.
You never would. So
That's all. Just.
No, I didn't want to bring that up. I've got something you're going to like, though. When I was coaching at Follett Junior High, everybody gather up and we'd play. You might have been up there some on Sundays. And we'd always end up guarding each other, using the term loosely on my end, and I'll explain why. I thought I knew something about defense. Well, Bobbie's got the ball out here, and the goal's back there, and I'm guarding him. We're about to, the side of the foul lane, 15, 16 feet out. So Bobbie makes a jab step, just like that. Well, I go with him. He's not going to get a layup on me. Well, he comes back. Well, I'm coming back, and he dribbles between my legs, moves on to the goal, and makes the layup. And that's when I figured out I didn't know anything about defense. I started studying. No, you the one made the layup. Yo, oh yeah, I was kind of like Danny Joe, yeah. There you go, Georgie.
Well, I've got a bunch of stories, but I'm just going to tell a few. Bobbie and we grew up together. He's a little bit older than I am. We played football together. I was behind him in basketball. We played a lot of golf. Two things that I can always remember, and you were talking about the asking him a question, and you run your business. Well, one year I was elected the president of the country club, and I had some things that I thought we might try to do. So I go into Bobbie one day, and he's in the pro shop, and I said, Bobbie, what do you think about this? Same thing. George, you run your company, and I'll take care of the golf course. We also had a big grudge match for a lot of years. Bobbie and Mike Rogers and Bill Leach and I had one. We probably played, 2 or 3 times a week
We did.
2 or 3. We went everywhere to play, and it was a grudge match, believe me. But towards the end, Bobbie wasn't playing much, and Bill and I had won a few in a row, and so I kept calling and wanting to know when we were going to play again. Mike called me one day, and he said, "You've been replaced." I said, "Who with?" He said, "Marvin Minton's new partner now." So, but no, Bobbie's been a great friend, and the Follett Golf Course, I mean, you can't explain it how, in its day, it was the best around here, and it was because of Bobbie, because he spent all the time working on that golf course, and it's a real credit to him.
One other thing that really is good. We had money.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
We put in the swimming pool, redid the clubhouse, went on the golf course,
Yeah.
put a new watering system in, put Bermuda grass in the fairways, and rebuild our greens.
Right.
And that cost a lot of money. We paid for all of it out of the general fund.
And when we had, yeah, it was. And when you had the waiting list, there was an initiation fee that we had. It was like $200 then, more than that. Well, 200. That's all I got to say, Bobbie.
Thank you, George, for your friendship. And Wayne never has yelled at me.
I don't have any funny stories to tell about Bobbie, but what I'll tell is pretty serious. When I was coaching basketball at Wynn, and I did that from 1973 to 1987, I guess. But back then we had a lot of older officials when I first started coaching, and some of them were, needed to get out of officiating, I guess, long before they did. They couldn't run the floor, but I always was tickled to death when I saw Bobbie Heatherly walk into the gym at a visiting school, because I knew at that point that I was going to get a well-officiated basketball game. We didn't always get that. I think I told him that one time, and he thanked me for it, but I really meant that. The second thing I know, he's a good businessman, and I'll tell you why I know that. He kind of invited me over to the Follett Country Club. Come over and play a few rounds. It won't cost you anything. So he kind of got me hooked over there practicing a little and just fooling around. And then he said, "When are you going to join this club?" So that's when they had a waiting list. I had to wait a couple of years to get in, but he got me started in golf, and that's something that carries over in life. I'm not able to play basketball anymore, or softball, or anything like that, but I can play golf. Bobbie, I appreciate those two things.
Just one thing, the toughest call I ever made for Wayne, we was playing at Wynn in the last seconds of the ball game. No time at all. It was going to just be a last desperate shot. Every Wayne was playing was behind, trailing the ball in backcourt, and they were bringing it backcourt. This kid lets it go from backcourt, 3-pointers in play now. Wayne's player fouled him 10 feet behind in backcourt. Hey, now how would you like to have to make that call and go to free throw line and shoot 3? But that was I made the call, and I swear it was the hardest call foul ever reported. And Wayne's standing over there going. I mean, he wasn't saying anything about the call. It was the kid, and the kid just whooped him across the arms. The kid made one free throw and missed 2, and Wayne won the game in overtime. And Wayne told me, he says, "I don't know why he done it." That was Wayne's. I don't know why he done it.
Yeah, it wasn't your fault.
No. But Wayne never said a word.
Well, I would have a million things to say to you, but I'm just going to say one. I mean, he got me kicked out of Ed's van in Asheville, North Carolina, and left me there on the side of the street, you know. But I'm going to tell him that one time that I was in the clubhouse, all our friends was there and everything, and I was on the city council at the time. I just requested to him, I said, he burnt up there in the field every day. And Donna and Kelly Wells, Martha Wells had complained to me. And I said, listen, why don't we set a burning date and tell them ahead of time so they can shut their air off or something. And here it comes. Bob, you run your drugstore, and I'll run the golf course. So sort of embarrassing when he does it in front of all your friends, you know. So immediately I got out, and Wayne Gregg was the codes man. And I called Wayne. I said, this is a joke. We're not really going to do it, but I want you to go up there with a citation and shut that burning down, okay? And you just tell him you have to shut it down. Don't do anything, but, you know, just for funsy, you know, we could do that. So Wayne went up there and was real serious and everything. Next day, the same group was in there, was getting ready to play golf. He said, Fannin, did you have Wayne come up here yesterday? I said, listen, before you go on, just remember, you run the golf course, and I'll run the city.
Well, I'd like to say, tell you what kind of character that Bobbie is. Kind of get a little emotional when I say this, but I got sick one day. Coming out of Bobbie's house, when he comes out on his front porch, he can see into the back of my wife's back porch. Bobbie knows me real well. He knew me, and when he saw me, he knew I needed help. And he come across the field, and he made me do something that I'd probably never done, is he made me get in an ambulance. And if I hadn't, I don't know what the outcome would have been. I appreciate Bobbie.
All we were saying about was getting you to the hospital.
That's right.
Thank you.
Kenny, Josh, Joey. Go ahead, Joey.
Well, I had the privilege to grow up, I think, probably in the prime time of the country club as a kid. And, you know, in today's society, a lot of people, they don't have a father in the home, or parents are not like they used to. And me and Robbie grew up where I always said I had 3 dads. Well, I actually had 4 good ones. My dad, and then my uncle, and Boyd Henniger, and Bobbie Heatherly. So, but I survived somehow. But, you know, I'm just honored to be here today with all you guys, because you all meant so much to us and took care of us. And but I thought Robbie called me, and I said, you know, what do you say about Bobbie? You know, Bobbie's more than, you know, he's a friend, he's a coach, he's a father figure, but Bobbie Heatherly is like an institution. I mean, he really is. I mean, he is La Follette Country Club. He gave his heart and soul to it, and if you worked for him at the country club, you gave your heart and soul to it. So I just want to thank you and for everything you did for me, and a friend of my dad's, a good friend of me, and then my kids. And I'll tell one story about Bobbie, not about me, but so my youngest son, Gunner, he grew up, and Bobbie came, he was like one of the last old school coaches. So Gunner was going to play with him and one of Robbie's girls on a rec team. And then Gunner was like 5 or 6 years old. And this is when kids just didn't get corrected in school and all that good stuff. So we picked Gunner up after practice one day, and he gets in the car. He goes, you know what, Daddy? He said, that Bobbie's just hard to ignore. Because Bobbie didn't, you know, if he said something, he meant it. If he said it, you know, if you didn't listen, he said it again. He says, that Bobbie sure is hard to ignore. But, you know, again, my kids are a benefit of being around the country club. And just thank you, Bobbie, for everything you've done for me and my family and my kids and so many other people.
Well, Joey pretty much summed it up right there. Bobbie is La Follette Country Club. He's the reason we're all here in this room today. He's took care of all of us growing up in different generations. You know, without Bobbie, I mean, how many golfers do we have in the county? One of our kids last year, Memphis, played on the team. He thinks the world of Bobbie Heatherly. Every time we was at practice, you know, Bobbie going to be here, you know. That's just a testament to him. I mean, anybody that's around him loves him. Anybody that's been around him at the golf course loves Bobbie Heatherly. I'll be working in the shop, and there'll be people that have come in I've never seen before. They said, "Yeah, back in the '70s, you know, is Bobbie around?" And you know, I played here in the '70s, and then I played here in the '80s and the '90s. They all come in, and they still ask for Bobbie. It just the people that he's touched throughout his years at the golf course is just amazing. I really don't know what else to say about him. I mean, I wouldn't be playing golf, you know. All the guys that are in here wouldn't be playing golf without him. So we really appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
One more thing. Even the ping rep, Tom Squires, every time he comes by, he asks about Bobbie, and he really thinks the world of you too. But other than that, I'll move on to the.
You got a tough job.
Well, yes, I do.
It's got a lot of rewards, but it's a lot of work.
Kitty, what? No? Okay. Yeah, where Mike? Mike, and how about Elwood? Come on in, Elwood. No. Where did Mike go? Is he still around? Come on in here, Mike. Come on in. You can defend yourself now. Come on.
Oh, I'm not getting in there. I know better than that. Oh, I've spent many a year with Bobbie. I've known him since junior high, and we've had our ups and downs, but we've always managed to do well, and he's done a great job at the golf course.
That's it, huh?
That's all you get.
Elwood Bailey? Yeah.
No, I didn't want to be.
Elwood, come on.
I guess most everybody remembers when Ralph Jeffers opened his range up out here behind his house on Loop Road. I live not too far from there, and I started going out there every evening and hitting a few balls. I got hooked. And to play golf back then, you had to pay $8, $10, you know, to play 18 holes. But Bobbie, at that time, that membership was full. I wanted to play, and I knew it'd be cheaper if I was a member, much as I wanted to play. He called me aside one day and said, "Elwood, I think I've got a membership coming up in 2 or 3 months." He said, "I'm going to let you play like you remember, you know." And he said, "Don't say anything about it." I just told it, Bob. But I remember that. I appreciate it.
They wanted you in the match, Elwood. It was easy there. We're finished.
That's what I was going to say about Marvin Minton. I think he helped pay for some of those improvements up there. Is the reason you wanted him to play.
Marvin didn't pay for anything. His wager wasn't too high.
Just real quick then, I'd just like to read part of the proclamation here that we did. We actually did this for you back in May when you had the golf tournament and when they have it every year in your honor. And sorry things didn't work out until right now, but we want to thank everybody for being here, because we all have a story about Bobbie, and he's helped so many of us in a lot of different ways. And so I'm just going to read part of it. Whereas it's fitting we salute citizens who their extraordinary efforts have distinguished themselves as community leaders of whom we can all be proud. And whereas one such a noteworthy person is Bobbie Heatherly, whose namesake Bobbie Heatherly Golf Classic annually at La Follette Country Club, and whereas a respected member, an esteemed member of his community, Mr. Heatherly invested 36 years on the hill that is home to the scenic 9-hole golf course at La Follette Country Club. Whereas a truly special event that's highly anticipated every year, the Bobbie Heatherly Golf Classic has now become a traditional tournament season opener at La Follette Country Club. Whereas Bobbie Heatherly epitomizes the spirit and commitment that are characteristic of Tennessean, whereas we find it appropriate to acknowledge and applaud Bobbie Heatherly for his dedication to the state of Tennessee. Now, therefore, I, Cameron Sexton, Speaker of the House of Representatives of the 112th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, at the request and in conjunction with Representative Dennis Powers, do hereby proclaim that we honor and commend Bobbie Heatherly for his exemplary service to his community in the state of Tennessee. And it was signed in Nashville by the Speaker of the House and by me. And Bobbie, I can't be more honored. You've done so much for so many people, and we're very proud of you, and you can look back over your life and just be proud of what you've done.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. Hey, this is very special, very, very special. Thank you.
We've been honoring Bobbie Heatherly today here on WLAF. Bobbie, Dennis, everybody, thanks for playing along. It's been a great, great morning here, and certainly a memorable day on WLAF. Derek Lee, we send it back to you in the studio here on WLAF.